Hey everybody, I'm Chelsea. Most of you know me if you're on my LinkedIn right now watching this. I am a B2B growth consultant and the founder of Close. We offer sales coaching and LinkedIn services for our clients. I'm here today with Ian Selby. Very excited to have him on my LinkedIn Live. He was kind enough to ask me to be on his podcast recently, and he agreed to come on. So Ian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Chelsea. It's a pleasure to be here and get a chance to talk to you again. Had a great time chatting with you on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. Ian Selby. I've been in the sales effectiveness business for 29 years. Prior to launching my company, I spent 10 years with Apple. Had a lovely run with Apple. I was named their top sales rep in the world in 1990. Some of our listeners weren't alive yet. I realize that. I still have my picture with Steve Jobs. Then I decided to pursue my passion, which is really helping people and companies reach their potential. So as I look back over the 29 years, Chelsea, I've trained over 17,000 people in 8 countries around the world, written 6 books. Still love what I do. I don't travel as crazy as I used to back in the day, but still love what I do. It's my passion. I'm fortunate and blessed enough to have found it earlier enough in my career. And then COVID hit 4 years ago, whatever the number was. And like many of us in this business, our pipelines evaporated. No one was traveling. So that's when I started my podcast. And I don't know, the first 10 episodes were me talking about some of the content in my books. And I thought, these poor listeners must be getting so sick of my voice by now. I better start having some interesting guests on the show. And so 190 odd episodes later, still doing it. And I get to speak to great people like you around the world. So that's a little nutshell on me.
I love it. Yeah, the podcast thing is great. I think, during COVID, it was a time of a lot of things that were being born for many of us, right? We had space to think about the new projects we wanted to take on. We had time to reflect. And the fact that you decided to do your podcast is really exciting, but it's also great that you've committed to it. I mean, 190 episodes so far, that's not easy to stay consistent. I mean, I do these LinkedIn Lives, honestly, probably every 2 weeks, and that's hard enough. So kudos to you on that. When we were talking on your podcast, maybe it was before your podcast, but either way, you shared how you got started in sales. So would you share with the audience how you got started? Because I always find that to be the most interesting thing about each person I talk to in the sales industry.
Yeah, the backstory, my first sales job, and all of our listeners will relate to their very first sales job. And mine was selling typewriters, which before computers, BC, before computers, door to door, not residential, but business to business, door to door. You'd go in with a typewriter under your arm. You would talk to the receptionist, try and get him or her to introduce you to the office manager. Sometimes we would do different things. Hey, I'm in the territory anyway. Why don't I let you try this typewriter at your desk? I'll go have a coffee, come back in half an hour. If you like it, we'll see if we can get your company to buy you one. So that might be one of the things we would try. And of course, I was very young. I was like 22 or something. So the veterans of the company, they had their territory were buildings downtown. So they just, on a rainy day, they just had to go up and down the elevator. And mine, because I was the youngster, I had an umbrella on one hand, a typewriter in the other, knocking on doors around an industrial territory. So that was my very first job in sales. Shortly after that, that's when I got hired at Apple as their youngest salesperson at the age of 25. We all cut our teeth somehow in the world of selling, for sure.
It's funny because I find a lot of us who own our own companies and now consult got started on door to door. So I started selling alarm systems door to door. You were doing the typewriters. If you were able to speak to yourself back then, that young 22-year-old Ian just getting started in sales, what advice would you give him?
That's interesting. That's a great question. I always think good salespeople have a few things in common. The first one is confidence, and there's a line there. It can't be, because when it's overconfident, now you're arrogant, and that's no longer a good trait. But managed confidence is a good thing. being organized. So having a system that you follow, a routine that you go through, that, knowing what to say when you show up or someone picks up the phone, being rehearsed on that. So that to me is all part of being organized. And then the P word is persistence. Just having that tenacity to never say done. You could lose the game, win the series. You're just having that keep going attitude and mindset, which is hard to teach people. It's more of the fire inside than what you could learn. So yeah, confidence, organized, persistence, and then follow through. Like when you make a commitment, you make sure you follow through. Because what does that say to the customer? I can trust them with the small things. I might be able to trust them with the big things, right? So it's COP F, confidence, organized, persistence, and follow through.
I was just trying to make a framework. I'm like, can we write this down? I might steal it for a LinkedIn post. I actually did a LinkedIn post recently about a woman I hired named Hannah. She was a single mom. She had no experience. She was a medical assistant when I hired her. And over the past 3 years, I taught her about sales. And in my post, I said the same thing. I didn't care about education. I really didn't care about experience that much when I was looking for someone to hire. It was that inner drive, that ambition, that determination, that hunger. And like, who has more hunger than a single mom that needs to feed her kids, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm all the way with the persistence. I deal with companies every day who have sales directors and reps. I'll go tell them to do something. I train them. I tell them, okay, go send 100 video messages, right, on LinkedIn to your prospect. They'll send 5 and be like, somebody wrote me back and was negative and said that they're going to, unfollow me or something. And like, this isn't working. And I'm like, well, what? You're in sales. Like you have to, like, where is your mindset? Because you're going to be told no and ignored 90% of the time.
Yes.
It's that 10%, maybe 5%, maybe on cold outreach, it's 0.01%. But that's the thing you're looking for, is the needle in the haystack. And I think that's lost a little bit today because of that instant gratification that everyone has. They have their phone in their pocket. They have all these quick responses. And they're just not, I don't know, the rejection, like they're not used to it. So when you're dealing with people, because, you consult with a lot of different companies as well, when you're dealing with a sales team, how do you shift their mindset to understand that they have to be persistent and to ignore the no's, ignore the people that are slamming the door in their face?
Well, there's, and again, mindset is hard to teach. There's different ways to motivate or inspire people. So I try to, there's the carrot or the whip. I tend to use more of the carrot than the whip.
Okay.
And so one of the things I do for prospecting is a campaign, an outreach campaign called Pipeline Wednesday. So what I've done, I've gamified prospecting. And so do you think salespeople are a little bit competitive?
Mm-hmm. We hope
Very
so.
competitive, right? So this is where the carrot comes in. So getting a team, even though they're all in the same company, on the same team, probably work in the same office often, making it a game. Who can book the most new meetings in a 3-hour outreach campaign? And, there's recognition for it. The company might give them a gift card. And certainly I'm going to praise them as I facilitate the program. And that tends to wake up anyone. So instead of them, that mindset going, I can't do this, I don't want to make calls today. Wait, she's beating me. I better start making some calls. I'm losing, right? So no one wants to lose Pipeline Wednesday. So that's one of the ways, Chelsea, I find that the mindset can be inspired to do the hard part. Because if you ask most salespeople, the hardest part of their job is outreach. Once you've got a client, you've got a relationship, they're buying services or products from you. Well, that's just, hopefully you're good at relationships. That's easy enough to do. It's finding the new ones is typically the hardest job. So it's almost like the Mary Poppins movie. If you make fun out of the cleanup, make fun out of prospecting, it'll get done. It'll get done as a team. And if there's a little prize for winning, there's where the positive mindset can wake up for sure.
So little prizes, like incentivize it, gamify it. When I worked in finance, we used to have to come in on Saturday mornings, very early, and just do same thing, just hours of cold calling. And then we could leave when we reached our goals. So it sounds similar, but it felt more like punishment on a Saturday morning. So
Yeah, so
I think a Wednesday would have been better.
I remember when I first came up with something called Pipeline Wednesday. This is going back. One of my early clients had great clients, but he wasn't very good at prospecting, and he'd be given referrals. So I like, well, where's your referrals in here? Well, can I be honest? Yeah. It says I haven't had a time to call him yet. I was like, what? You're so lucky to even get referrals. So we had a game. The three of us, I played, so I drank my own Kool-Aid. And our job, we sat in one of our boardrooms with our laptops and our phones, and we were booking. And when you booked a meeting, you got to stand up, walk over to the whiteboard, and put a little mark by your name. And the other two guys are looking up, going, "Oh, now I'm losing." And the deal was, we all had to book 10 meetings before lunch, and the last one of 10 bought lunch. So it was already a bit of a game. Yes, we played golf together, so we're all playing. One day we didn't have lunch till 3 p.m. And it's like, phone my sister, she'll buy something. I'm starving. Come on, man, let's go.
I don't think I could do that when I was hungry. Like, I would just be so mean to everybody.
It was fun though. It's kind of where the whole idea of that got discovered, and the recognition, the game, just the winning or losing, not wanting to be last, was like, wow, what if a sales organization had 30 salespeople, right? And how much more of a game would that be, right? So that's what I found through the years.
Well, I love this, and I think anyone listening needs to take this in, because oftentimes companies that are smaller, under 10 million, their salespeople are also responsible for a book of business. They're doing that account management. In the larger companies, the structure changes where you have an SDR, and they're responsible for prospecting all day. That's all they do. But with these smaller companies, they're wearing both hats. And I see it too. They just don't prospect. So even if they take that baby step, like you're saying, and they adopt this practice where on Wednesdays they set 3 hours, maybe from 10 to 1 or something, where they just go and hit the phones and send emails and prospect on LinkedIn, that's more prospecting that they've probably done in months, just those 3 hours alone. Because a lot of them don't do outreach. I mean, they rely on referrals, they get comfortable, and they just don't want to do it, to be honest. Like, that's really what it is.
You're so right. I did an engagement last year with a company in upstate New York, and when I got there, we had to make some changes to the sales organization because some of them really weren't salespeople. Once we made all the changes and put them on Pipeline Wednesday, they had zero pipeline at the beginning, absolutely zero. And 6 months later, they had 84 million in the pipeline through 6 salespeople.
Just doing this on Wednesday?
Yes, every second Wednesday. 6 months. 6 months of that.
So you had 3 hours, 6 hours of prospecting per month.
Per month.
And you put 84 million in the pipe.
That's right. And their close ratio is 25% from the first meeting to closure. So what happened to revenues? It went like that.
Who are they contacting? Who's their ICP?
They were selling shelving, so B2B. So they were selling to retail, liquor stores, pet food stores, people like Walmart, Costco, those types of organizations. And some of the people that we hired into the team had a book of business themselves, worked for competitors in the past. So they brought their books with them as well. Yeah. So those are easy calls to make on a Pipeline Wednesday. Hey, it's Joe. Remember me? Yeah, come on in, Joe. We'd love to talk about what you're doing now. Right. So those are the easy ones. Eventually those get all used up and you gotta hit the cold pages. But it worked. A client I'm currently engaged with now, we've been doing it for 4 months, and we've put 260 new opportunities into the pipeline in 4 months. So it's like 8 different Pipeline Wednesdays. So the company is like, wow, we haven't made this many proactive cold calls in our company's history, let alone 4 months, right? So again, it's the gamification. I think that's the secret sauce. It makes it almost fun to prospect. And then, okay, I lost last time. I want to win this time. So I'm going to go deeper into LinkedIn and do my homework, my pre-work before I start making the calls. I might even start sending them some LinkedIn notes, and then I call them on a Wednesday. By the way, I sent you a message on LinkedIn. My name's Ian. I'd love a chance to understand more about your business and see if we can help you. Right. So it's lesser of a cold call. So, and LinkedIn's a huge part of it. There's no doubt about it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously, Close, my baby, my company, my third baby, we offer LinkedIn services. We've been doing this for over 7 years now. It is a huge portion of what we teach companies when we're building out their sales processes. Like LinkedIn is just part of it, no matter what. So it's wild to me that you're sharing these numbers, because again, when I go into a company, and we talked about this before, I am implementing automation and AI. And that stuff has to run in the background. Like, you have to be sending out thousands of cold emails to a targeted, group of people. You're not spamming, but that has to be running. There needs to be some things automated with LinkedIn, maybe some direct mail. You might even have a vendor doing cold calls in the background. But there's still this element where someone needs to be doing personalized outreach. See, I say every day. But even if we could get some of these companies to do it like just Wednesday, right, that would be good, because they're just not doing it. And, I think in this day and age, people rely too much on the tech stack. They rely too much on this volumized outreach, and they're not doing the basic things like just reading someone's LinkedIn profile, sending them a personalized connection request, following up with a message that's relevant, emailing that person, being like, hey, I hit you up on LinkedIn. Here's why. But I used to think, I think it's two things. One thing, it is a little bit of laziness, to be honest. And people are just not good at holding themselves accountable. And that's why they hire people like you and me, because they need someone to hold them accountable. But there was this other side to it. And it's the fact that these people just really don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It's a number one issue right now. It's like, I work with different companies across different industries, mainly B2B, tech, some agencies, but they don't know what to say to prospects. So even if they do that research you're talking about, when they go to write a message or they go to call them or write an email, they fall apart. So do you have any advice on that? Like, when people feel confused on what to say?
So it's about amplifying the value proposition. But when I'm teaching, who defines value? It's always the customer. So we might think we can write a nice little nifty script that just beautifully worded. Here's what we do. But a great value proposition says, here's what we do for you. That second step is all about that company's needs. So I like to say, and I need 2 days to teach it, but what is professional selling about? Calling high. So calling on decision makers first. Don't get stuck in the influencer stack, because you'll never get out of there. There are people that can only say no. They can't say yes. So call high. Find the pain. So what is their business pain? Not what do they buy? Why do they need it in the first place? If you can give yourself that as the target, then you can bring the gain, which could be your solution or advice on other ways to solve the pain without selling anything. You still create value for the client. And then the follow-up part, do it again and again. So it's almost like a route. Call high, find the pain, bring the gain, do it again, right? So that's really what it's about. So the value proposition needs to fit the business pain. So that's where the research comes in. You can't say, here's what we do. You want to buy some? That's not gonna nail the pain. That's gonna, okay, I see what you sell. Why do I need it? Why would I want it? Right? So the research ahead of time, and that's, again, you can learn a ton of information on LinkedIn, our friend, in terms of what the company's needs are, how are they doing. Back in the day, it used to be cold calling door to door. You try and get your hands on one of their annual reports so you could actually find out, how are they doing? How could I help them? Now with technology, we've got shortcuts to do our research, right? So find the pain and bring the gain. That would be my advice to any salesperson.
I love that. When I work with companies, I first start with their sales messaging and their value prop and their unique selling points. That's the first thing I look at. So I do a quick evaluation of this sales, marketing, customer success. Then I look at how they're positioning themselves. And that value proposition is oftentimes an issue. Sometimes they don't even have a value prop, to be honest. And I just signed with a company who's been working 30 years. They have had customers for 30 years. And when I asked them what's their value prop, their elevator pitch, their unique selling points, there was no answer.
It's like, no, like crickets, right?
Crickets. And this is not the first time. Like I'm telling you. So, if someone wanted to develop a value proposition, you're saying like, think about the pain points of the customer. You don't want to talk about, me, I. Can you give us an example of like a value prop of someone you worked with that you felt was powerful and effective? Just so
there's
people
no
can
question.
figure out how to write one.
Well, they're fairly recent. A client, they did executive recruiting. That's the business model there, and they were national. And they thought they brought like strategic leadership candidates to their clients. So as part of my assessment process, I actually interview their customers. So what do you think they actually do for you? Do they do strategic leadership? No. They've got great contacts. They're good at follow-up. So guess who knows what the value proposition is? The customer. So if you can learn from their customers what the value proposition is, then get loud and proud on that. And instead of, if you don't like what your customers think your value is, then you have to work to change that. You can't just suggest it's something else, because now there's a gap in your messaging, right? So an easy way to determine your value proposition is go and ask your customers, what do you get as a result of working with us? What's the business impact we help make for you? And you get enough feedback and look at the common threads, that's your value proposition. That's what you want to do branding around and build messaging on LinkedIn around, or your website, however your thought leadership process works. But you want to understand what it is first. And it will vary from client to client because every business is a little bit different, but there's a ton of overlap. So that if you want a shortcut, interview 10 of your customers and ask them, what do you get as a result of working with us? What do we do for you? And you'll also learn what else you could be doing. We don't do that. Oh, there's 5 of our clients that if we did this, they'd buy that too. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Increasing the lifetime value of a customer is extremely important just from a revenue perspective. And interviewing clients is great. There's a company that does this that's similar to my company name. It's CLOHZERS, but it's spelled differently. And they do win-loss analysis. They talk to current clients. They also talk to prospects, and they interview them as a third party and ask why a company leaves, and or like why they didn't, choose to buy. And I always thought that was like the most powerful thing, just like that research alone and understanding someone else's perspective, because it's so easy to get caught up in your own company and thinking why people buy from you or why they will. But going outside yourself, that's the answer. I love that. That's like the best advice you could give someone.
I call it, it's interesting, Chelsea, when I conduct the interview, so my client will say, well, who do you want to talk to? These guys would love to talk. Of course, that's your fan club. Yes, I wouldn't mind talking to a couple of good references, good clients.
Yeah.
But I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. I also want to talk to someone that you lost.
Right.
Might I be able to open the door for a win back? Maybe. I always look for that. But they're going to tell me the real truth. Why did they leave? What's broken? So that's the mix I like to do. Good, bad, and ugly when I'm doing the customer calls to get a sense of value for sure.
And honestly, like, you'd be surprised if it's a third party, because it is harder internally. But if it's a third party who says like, hey, I'll give you $100 if you jump on a call. I know you recently spoke with CLOHZERS about LinkedIn services and you didn't move forward. Love to learn why. They're trying to better their services or trying to, increase revenue, whatever you want to say. They might jump on. It really, like, people do want to help each other out. And at the end of the day, like, if you're talking to a third party, they could be more open. They could be more transparent.
There's no doubt about that. Because if you lose an account and you go back with your hat, your hat in your hand 2 weeks later. So why did you decide to give the business to someone else? They might not even want to talk to you about that.
Right.
It's awkward. It's like, well, they might just lean on, well, the price was better over there, or the product's a different color, or like whatever. You might not get the real truth. So you're right, Chelsea. Outsourcing that to someone like yourself or maybe myself.
Yeah.
We do that as part of our living. So we know the questions to ask. We can get them. And someone's way more open to talk to someone who's more of a stranger about a situation than not, right? It's surprising what people will do when you just ask for some help.
Exactly. And that's kind of what your whole entire value prop is. And it's just reach out, talk to people, ask if they're interested in getting on a meeting, ask why they left, ask why they didn't buy, ask why they did buy. It's really like, that is your value prop. That's what you're telling people to do. Just go do it.
Exactly. And it changes. Value propositions evolve through time because, the business pain is going to change. So is the competitive landscape, who the other alternatives are that they could buy same or similar products or services from. So value propositions evolve. So just because it's not, set it and forget it. We did it 5 years ago, so we're still pushing that argument. Well, guess what? 5 months ago, the world may have changed. So we got to keep asking, how are we doing? What can we do a better job of? And when we start holding ourselves accountable to customers, it's amazing what happens. Beyond loyalty, we get 3 other beautiful things: repeat business, referrals, and reference accounts. The 3 sweet R's. If we do a good job with our clients, guess what? Our clients become part of our sales organization.
It's very true. And then what advice, do you have for someone who has a startup? So they wouldn't have customers. Would you just say, go and interview potential prospects and ask them what their needs are?
That's not a bad place to start. I think there's a lot of research you could do. There's agencies that will do some of that pre-work, that market research for you. Problem with startups typically is they're not well enough funded. So the founder or maybe the first couple of staff, part of their job is also sales. Build the product, I better make some calls today. They're the ones that actually need services from you and I the most, because they're wearing all these hats. They don't have any discipline in sales. There's no accountability. It's almost like a hobby. Oh, I'll make some calls today. Oh, I got busy. I was too busy doing this or doing that. And now the sales get the lowest priority. So I would say if you're a startup, look for someone that will play even a fractional VP of sales role to help you, to bring some of that discipline, or I call it sales muscle, to the team. Because without customers, you don't have a business. You can have a great product, but if no one paying you for it, so it's all in the so what category. So it's critical to get customers and look after them.
Absolutely. And I see that all the time dealing with these tech companies. Theirs and the founders are like, all product development. They're just focused on product and making the product better and doing this feature and that feature. And I'm like, no, just sell what you have. Let's get this out, get some money, then see what bells and whistles need to be added, because you don't know. I mean, you think you know, but you don't know exactly what the customer wants. And oftentimes they've already built this awesome software that's, better than any of their competitors as is, before adding anything in, and it's ready to go, but they're not pulling the trigger. Something holds them back. Like they want to always keep optimizing, right? And then they stop themselves from selling.
You're so right, Chelsea, especially in the tech sector. I've got many tech clients too. And their thinking is, if we build the best product, people will phone us. We'll just have to answer the phone. We'll be order takers. I'll take $1 million. Okay, when would you like it? Okay, great. There you go. Next deal. That doesn't happen. It does not. You have to build, and it doesn't have to be a perfect product. I think that's what you're also saying. Get it 70% done so that it's functional. Your MVP is there. It works. You get value from it. Go sell, get some cash flow, listen to what the customers are saying, and then take it the last 30%. Which, by the way, will never end because you're always making improvements, right? But at least you're doing it on cash flow, not on startup or seed capital.
Yeah, and if you are bootstrapped, you're kind of screwed with that mentality. And then even if you have funding, that runs out quick.
It does. And typically you hire all these people, and there's still no sales discipline. And we got someone doing the accounting, we got someone fixing the product, we got customer support answering the phone if there's a complaint. Well, who's selling? Why do you hire salespeople or put a sales discipline together, right? Because that's the lifeblood of any growth.
Absolutely. And what's funny with my company, when I first started, the first person I hired was a fractional SDR to do outreach. That was the first person I hired. It was 20 hours a week, and I'm like, go sell for me. Go get me more sales. I won't sleep at night. I will do all the project work. I do all the finances. Like, back then I was doing everything. And I didn't even outsource marketing. I didn't outsource anything. I was like, go get me more customers. Because once I have more customers, I will feel comfortable then hiring other people and training them to do project management and things. But that's always how I thought. I've founded multiple companies. I don't get it. Like, obviously, I've never had funding. I didn't get 4.4 million in funding like a lot of my clients have. But to me, it's always sales first. It's sales led. That's what a company is. You need money coming in and you need to spend less than you're bringing in. That is the function of revenue. That's how you scale.
Yeah. Sell more and spend less.
Exactly.
Until you can afford to spend more, then you're selling way more, right?
Yeah.
Then you'll spend more on selling because you see the ROI from it, right?
Exactly. Well, I love this conversation. It was so helpful. So a few things for the audience, if they want to keep listening to you. When is the podcast? Like, what day of the week do you usually launch it?
I launch a new episode every Thursday.
Every Thursday. Okay. So Confessions of a Sales Professional every Thursday. I'll drop the link to it in the comments below because you have some great guests. I just saw you post the other day the list of guests that's coming up. So I'm going to listen as well. And then if they want to read your books, you have 6 of them at this point, right?
Yeah, they're all orderable on my website, salesmentoryou.com. I've got a few that are free PDFs so you can download, and I have some that are actually audio as well, so you can listen to them if you don't like reading like me. I'd rather listen than read. I can multitask that way, right? So feel free to use my website as a resource. The podcasts are also all available there too. And there'll be more details and background on me and the services I offer if anyone's interested.
Perfect. So if they do want to contact you for consulting and that, it's not Whip It Wednesdays, but it's prospecting. In my mind, it's Whip It Wednesdays. Put a whip on them, get them prospecting.
Pipeline Wednesday. There you go. Exactly.
Pipeline Wednesdays. They can contact you on that website as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Chelsea. Yeah.
All right, good. Ian, thank you so much again for joining me on LinkedIn Live. Hopefully we could do this again. And for everyone that's listening, thank you for listening. You can contact Ian if you have any questions. I'm going to link everything below. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks again, Chelsea.
Bye.